Wait, before you ignore that old penny, take a closer look. Some wheat pennies have sold for hundreds, thousands, and in rare cases, even more. What's surprising is that many of these valuable coins still look completely ordinary at first glance. Most people toss them into jars or spend them without a second thought. But collectors know that the right penny, with the right details, can be a hidden treasure. In today's video, we're uncovering some of the most rare and valuable wheat pennies, and what makes them so special. Make sure you watch until the end, because the final coin might be the one you've been overlooking, and it could already be in your collection. First up, we're looking at a truly historic piece. The 1937 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, found today in heavily circulated and damaged condition. At first glance, it may look like just an old, worn penny, darkened from decades of handling, with scratches, nicks, and surface marks everywhere. But this coin carries a story that goes far beyond its appearance. The 1937 penny is part of the classic wheat cent series, which ran from 1909 to 1958 and represents one of the most iconic designs in U.S. coin history. These pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why there is no mint mark on this coin. Coins from Philadelphia often make identifying rarities and errors a bit trickier, but every penny from this era carries historical value simply because of its age and the story it tells about everyday America in the 1930s. The front of the coin, the obverse, features Abraham Lincoln's portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces right, with liberty to the left and the date, 1937, to the right. Even though the coin is heavily worn, you can still see the outline of his face, the faint traces of his hair, and the high points of his jaw and cheek. On the reverse, the classic wheat design frames 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum across the top. The wheat ears are now flattened, almost smooth in many places, but their presence still reminds us of the agricultural roots of the United States during the Great Depression. The design was intended to symbolize growth, prosperity, and resilience, qualities that Americans needed during those difficult times. This particular penny shows extreme signs of circulation. The surface is scratched and nicked, with deep wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, and jawline. The wheat stalks on the reverse are nearly flattened, with little detail remaining. Environmental exposure has caused discoloration and uneven toning, leaving the coin with a dark, almost charcoal black appearance in some areas. This kind of patina is common for copper coins that have been handled extensively over many decades, and while it reduces the visual appeal for some, it can actually tell collectors that the coin has lived a full life in circulation. In other words, every scratch and worn detail is a piece of history, showing that this coin was once a part of everyday transactions, passed hand to hand across the country. Despite its heavy wear, this 1937 wheat penny is still important to collectors. While condition does impact value, rarity, historical context, and potential errors can make even a well-worn coin significant. In 1937, the Philadelphia Mint struck millions of pennies, but only a small number survived with enough detail for collectors to appreciate. Errors from this year, like double dies, off-center strikes, or planchet defects, were rare, but occasionally a 1937 penny shows subtle variations that experts look for under magnification. These mistakes can dramatically increase a coin's value, sometimes pushing it into the six-figure range if authenticated. Even in heavily damaged or circulated condition, a penny with verified error can sell for $155,000 to $213,000 at auction, depending on rarity and collector interest. Collectors also love wheat pennies because they represent a tangible connection to the past. This coin is not just a piece of copper. It's a witness to history. In 1937, the United States was slowly recovering from the Great Depression. Families relied on every cent, and coins like this were spent and saved countless times, carried in pockets, purses, and cash boxes. Each scratch and worn edge tells the story of the people who used it and the economy they lived in. That's part of what makes wheat pennies so captivating. They are more than currency. They are a small artifact of daily life in America during a transformative period. When examining a coin like this, collectors pay attention to several things, even when it's heavily circulated. The date must be fully legible, and key design elements like Lincoln's face, the word liberty, and the reverse inscriptions must still be recognizable. On this particular coin, while wear has taken its toll, the date 1937 remains clear, as do most of the letters on both sides. This ensures that it is still a collectible piece and not just a generic copper disc. While uncirculated examples of 1937 wheat pennies can fetch higher prices, even heavily circulated coins like this one have a place in collections, especially for enthusiasts who aim to complete a full date set of Lincoln pennies. Another aspect that makes this coin interesting is the absence of a mint mark. Philadelphia mint coins are often the most common in terms of sheer numbers, but they are also historically significant because they represent the primary production hub of a U.S. mint during that era. Without a mint mark, the coin reminds us of the minting practices of the 1930s. When the Philadelphia Mint was producing coins for the entire country, collectors value these coins not just for their metal or date, but also for their connection to mint history and the story of coin production in America. The heavily circulated condition also highlights the challenges of preserving coins. Many pennies from the 1930s were spent for decades before anyone thought to collect them. Some were lost, some damaged, and some ended up in change jars for generations. Finding a 1937 wheat penny in any condition today is already an achievement, and for collectors who are careful with their holdings, even a damaged coin can be an important part of a collection. The coin's patina and will also serve as a natural record of its journey through time, providing authenticity that a brand new replica cannot match. While this coin may not have the eye-catching shine of an uncirculated example, it still holds potential interest for advanced collectors. Even heavily worn coins can occasionally hide subtle errors, such as double die marks on the date or letters, small planchet cracks, or slight off-center strikes. These features often require magnification to see, but can significantly increase a coin's value if verified. Collectors who specialize in wheat pennies often search through hundreds of circulated coins to find these hidden gems, and that search is part of the excitement of numismatics. It's a reminder that even a coin that looks ordinary at first can carry hidden historical and monetary significance. This 1937 Lincoln wheat penny also represents an era of American artistry. Victor David Brenner's design has endured for over a century, and even though the details are worn, you can still appreciate the balance of Lincoln's portrait, the inscriptions, and the wheat ears framing the reverse. The artistry of the coin reflects a period when the U.S. Mint focused on elegance and symbolism, combining practical currency with a visual tribute to one of America's greatest presidents. Even in damaged condition, the design communicates Lincoln's image and the symbolic wheat stalks that represent prosperity and growth during challenging times. Collectors are drawn to coins like this not just for their monetary value, but for the story they tell. A 1937 wheat penny in heavily circulated and damaged condition is a snapshot of history, a piece of everyday life that has survived nearly a century. It reminds us of the passage of time, the evolution of the economy and the care, or lack thereof, taken by previous owners. Each scratch, darkened area, and flattened detail is evidence of its journey. And for those who love history, that journey is just as valuable as the coin itself. Even though this coin has endured decades of circulation, it is still a legitimate collectible. Serious collectors may grade it as good to very good, acknowledging the wear, while recognizing that the coin is authentic and its date is clearly readable. Coins in this grade range, especially from the 1930s, can still attract attention at auctions, particularly when paired with other coins to complete a full set or when a subtle error is discovered. In some cases, even damaged or heavily worn 1937 wheat pennies can reach values from $155,000 up to $213,000, depending on rarity, condition nuances, and collector demand. Owning a coin like this is a chance to hold a piece of history in your hand. It connects us to the 1930s, a time of recovery and resilience, and reminds us how everyday objects like coins can become treasured artifacts over time. Even in heavily circulated and damaged condition, the 1937 Lincoln wheat penny carries both historical and potential monetary significance, making it an exciting piece for collectors who appreciate the stories behind the coins they collect. In conclusion, this 1937 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, despite its heavily circulated and damaged condition, is a fascinating example of numismatic history. Its worn surface, darkened patina, flattened wheat ears, and scratched obverse all tell the story of its long life in circulation. It serves as a reminder of the craftsmanship, history, and enduring legacy of the wheat penny series. Collectors value these coins not just for their rarity, but for the tangible connection they provide to nearly a century of American life. Even today, a coin like this can command attention in the collecting world, with values ranging from $155,000 to $213,000 for examples that carry unique features, errors, or historical significance, proving that even the most battered coins can hold treasures beyond their simple copper composition. This 1937 wheat penny teaches us that history is not always neat and shiny. Sometimes it's worn, scratched, and darkened. Yet within those imperfections lies a story waiting to be discovered, a story of American life, the evolution of currency, and the enduring fascination of coin collecting. It's a coin that reminds collectors that every piece of change has a journey, and even the most unassuming penny can carry immense historical and monetary value in the right hands. Next up, we take a closer look at another classic coin from early American history, the 1939 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, found today in old, dirty, and heavily circulated condition. At first glance, this coin may not look impressive at all. The surface appears dull, dark, and uneven. Dirt and discoloration cover much of the coin, and the once sharp details now look soft and worn. Many people would quickly pass this coin by without a second thought. But collectors know that coins like this often carry hidden stories, and sometimes even hidden value. This penny was struck in 1939 at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why it does not have a mint mark. During that time, Philadelphia was the main mint producing coins for the country, and it did not use mint marks on cents. So, a 1939 penny with no mint mark is completely normal. But what makes it interesting is not just where it was made, but when it was made. The year 1939 was a time when the United States was still recovering from the Great Depression, and at the same time, the world was moving toward the beginning of World War II. Coins like this were part of everyday life during a very serious and uncertain time in history. The design of this coin is part of the famous wheat penny series, which began in 1909. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. Even though your coin is worn, you can still recognize his outline. The word Liberty appears on the left side, and the date 1939 is on the right. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "I in God we trust." On a coin in old and dirty condition, these details may not be sharp, but they are still visible, and that's important. On the back of the coin, you'll find the classic wheat ears design. Two wheat stalks curve along the sides, framing the words 1 cent in the center. Above that, it says United States of America, and at the very top is E Pluribus Unum. Even though the coin is dirty and worn, the overall design is still clear enough to identify. The wheat lines may be faded or partially smooth, but their shape can still be seen. Now let's talk about the condition, because this is where your coin really shows its journey. This 1939 penny is in circulated condition, and more than that, it is old and dirty. The surface likely has a dark brown or almost black tone, which happens naturally when copper reacts with air, moisture, and dirt over many years. This is called oxidation, and it is completely normal for coins of this age. The coin may also have patches of grime or uneven coloring, especially if it has been stored in a rough environment or handled frequently. The wear on the coin is also easy to notice. Lincoln's hair and facial features are flattened, and the high points of the design have lost their sharpness. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are worn down, and so the fine lines may no longer be visible. There may also be scratches, nicks, and small dents across the surface. All of this tells us that the coin was used heavily in everyday transactions for many years. Many people think that a coin in this kind of condition has no value. And it's true that most common 1939 pennies in poor condition are not worth much on their own. But in the world of coin collecting, value is not only about how clean or shiny a coin looks. Sometimes it's about rarity, history, and most importantly, possible errors. Back in 1939, coins were made using older machines and methods that were not as precise as today's technology. This means mistakes could happen during production. Some 1939 wheat pennies are known to have double die errors, where the letters or numbers appear slightly doubled. Others may show die cracks, small raised lines caused by damage to the minting tools. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly aligned, and even rare cases where coins were struck on the wrong type of metal. These kinds of errors are what collectors are always searching for. And here's the exciting part. Even a coin that looks old, dirty, and worn can still have one of these rare features. The wear does not remove the error, it only hides it. That's why experienced collectors carefully examine even the most unattractive coins. Another important thing to understand is that dirt and dark toning do not always reduce value. In many cases, they show that the coin has not been cleaned or altered. Cleaning a coin can actually damage its surface and lower its value. So even though your 1939 penny looks dirty, it may actually be better left as it is. That natural look tells collectors that the coin is original. Now, let's talk about the part that gets everyone's attention, the value. While a normal 1939 wheat penny in this condition is usually common, rare error examples from this year have sold for very high prices. Depending on the type of error and how clear it is, values can reach between $147,000 and $217,000. That kind of price is not for every coin, but for those rare pieces that have something unique about them. And here's what makes it even more interesting. Some of those valuable coins were found in circulated, dirty condition, just like this one. They were not shiny or perfect. They were sitting in old collections jars or even pocket change, waiting to be discovered. This is why collectors always say to never ignore an old penny. A coin that looks ordinary on the outside may have something special hidden inside. That's why it's important to take a closer look. Check the date, examine the letters, and look for anything unusual. Even small details can make a big difference. The 1939 wheat penny is also special because it is part of a longer story. It sits right in the middle of the wheat penny series, connecting the early years of the 1900s with the later years leading up to the 1940s and beyond. For collectors trying to complete a full set, every date matters, and 1939 is an important piece of that puzzle. In the end, this old and dirty 1939 Lincoln wheat penny is more than just a worn piece of copper. It is a small piece of American history. It has traveled through time, through people's hands, through years of change, and it has survived to tell its story. Its worn surface, dark color, and faded details are not flaws. They are proof of its journey. So if you ever come across a 1939 wheat penny without a mint mark, even if it looks dirty and worn, don't ignore it. Take a moment, look closer, and see what it might be hiding. Because sometimes, the coins that look the least valuable are the ones that hold the biggest surprises. Next up, 1944 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark. And this coin feels like it carries the weight of history right in your hand. At first glance, the dark black coloration may make it look unusual or even damaged. But this is actually where the story begins. This is not just a coin. It is a survivor from one of the most intense periods in world history. When you first look at this penny, the color stands out immediately. Instead of the usual brown or red-brown copper tone, the surface appears very dark, almost black in some areas. This kind of coloration often comes from long-term oxidation, exposure to moisture, or storage in harsh conditions. Over time, copper reacts with the environment, creating this deep, aged look. If you tilt the coin under light, you may notice that the black color is not perfectly even. Some spots may look slightly lighter, while others are darker. This uneven surface tells a story of years spent in different environments. It shows that the coin has not been cleaned or polished, which is something many collectors actually prefer. Now hold the coin and take a closer look at the front. You will see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Even though the coin is worn and dark, his face is still visible. The details, however, are softer now. The hairlines are mostly worn down, and the cheek area looks smooth. The words, "I in God we trust," can still be seen above his head, though they may blend into the dark surface. Liberty is visible on the side, but again, the letters may not stand out strongly. The date 1944 is still clear, which is very important for collectors. There is no mint mark on this coin, which means it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, Philadelphia coins often did not carry a mint mark, so this is normal. Now turn the coin over the backside. You will see the classic wheat stalk design. Two wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. This design gives the coin its name, wheat penny. On this coin, the wheat stalks are still visible, but the fine lines are worn. The edges of the design are softer, and some details have faded over time. The lettering is still readable, though it may look slightly thin or worn. Now let's talk about the history behind this coin, because this is where it becomes truly special. The year 1944 was during World War II. Just 1 year earlier, in 1943, pennies were made from steel because copper was needed for the war. By 1944, the U.S. Mint returned to using copper again, but not in the usual way. They used recycled copper from spent shell casings and other wartime materials. This means your 1944 penny may actually contain metal that was once part of military equipment. That alone makes this coin very meaningful. It connects everyday money to a time when the entire country was focused on the war effort. Now, let's go back to the condition. This coin is circulated and shows clear signs of wear. The high points are smooth, and the surface has marks from years of use. The black coloration adds to its aged look, making it appear even older. Some people might think this kind of condition lowers the value, but collectors often see it differently. A coin like this shows real history. It has not been cleaned or changed. It has simply aged naturally. Now here is where things get even more interesting. Even though many 1944 pennies were made, not all of them are the same. Collectors often look for errors or rare features. One of the most famous is the 1944 steel penny. This happens when a leftover steel planchet from 1943 was used by mistake in 1944. These are extremely rare and very valuable. Another feature to look for is doubling. This is when the letters or numbers appear slightly doubled. Even on a worn coin, this can sometimes still be seen. There can also be die cracks, which appear as thin raised lines on the surface. These happen when the metal die begins to crack after heavy use. Some coins may also show off-center strikes or weak strikes, where parts of the design are not fully formed. Now think about the journey of this coin. It was made in 1944 during a time of war. It may have been used by people on the home front, buying everyday items while the country was focused on bigger challenges. Over the years, it moved from hand to hand, slowly picking up wear and changing color. At some point, it may have been stored in a place where moisture or air caused the dark oxidation we see today. Every mark, every worn area, and every change in color is part of that journey. This is what gives a coin its character. It is not just a piece of metal. It is a small part of history that has survived for decades. In today's collector market, 1944 wheat pennies are still very popular, especially because of their wartime connection. Coins with unusual features or strong historical appearance often attract more attention. Now here comes the surprising part. Even though this coin is worn and dark, it can still be worth a very high amount if it has the right characteristics. If this coin shows a rare error, strong remaining detail, or unique features, it can reach values between $153,000 and $213,000 when properly examined and confirmed by experts. That kind of value does not come from the coin being perfect. It comes from rarity and history. There are many normal coins, but only a few with something truly special. This is why collectors take their time. They study every detail, looking for signs that make a coin different. The 1944 wheat penny without a mint mark is a powerful example of how a simple coin can carry deep meaning. It connects us to a time of war, shows real use over decades, and may even hide a rare feature. For collectors, coins like this are more than just money. They are pieces of the past that can still be held today. They remind us that history is not only in books, it is also in the small things we often overlook. So the next time you see a coin like this, take a closer look. Check the date, the color, and the details. Because sometimes, even a dark and worn penny can turn out to be something much more valuable than it first appears. Next up, 1947 wheat penny without a mint mark. And this coin feels like a quiet reminder of a time when life was slowly returning to normal after a long and difficult period. It may look simple at first, but when you take a closer look, you start to see that this small coin carries a story of recovery, change, and everyday life in the years after World War II. When you first hold this penny, you can tell it has been used. The surface is not bright or shiny anymore. Instead, it shows a soft brown color, sometimes called a natural patina. This color forms over many years as the copper reacts with air and the environment. It gives the coin a warm, aged look that many collectors actually like, because it shows the coin has not been cleaned or changed. Now, take a closer look at the front of the coin. You will see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His face is still clear, but the details are not as sharp as they once were. The hairlines are softer, and the cheek and jaw areas look slightly smooth. This is normal for a coin in circulated condition, where the highest parts of the design wear down first. The words "I in God we trust" appear above his head, and liberty is visible on the side. These letters are still readable, though they may look thinner or slightly worn. The date 1947 is clear, which is very important when identifying the coin. There is no mint mark on this penny, which tells us it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, coins from Philadelphia usually did not carry a mint mark, so this is expected. Now turn the coin over to the back side. You will see the classic wheat design, with 2 wheat stalks on each side. These wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. On this coin, the wheat stalks are still visible, but the fine lines are not as sharp as they will be on a new coin. Some details have softened due to wear, but the overall design is still easy to recognize. The lettering on the back is clear, though slightly worn. The words still stand out enough to be read, without much effort. If you run your finger along the edge of the coin, you will feel that it is smooth, as expected for a penny. Over time, the edges may become slightly rounded from use, which is another sign of circulation. Now, let's talk about the condition more closely. This coin is in circulated condition, which means it has been used in everyday transactions. It shows light to moderate wear, but it still keeps most of its design. There may be small scratches, tiny marks, or areas where the surface looks uneven. These come from contact with other coins and objects over the years. The color is usually even, with some darker spots or patches. These are natural and show the coin has aged over time. Now think about the time when this coin was made. The year 1947 was just after World War II had ended. The country was moving forward, rebuilding, and returning to normal life. Coins like this were part of everyday use during that time. People used them to buy food, pay for small items, and handle daily transactions. This coin may have passed through many hands during that period. It may have been used in small shops, carried in pockets, or saved in jars. Every mark on the coin is part of that journey. It shows that the coin was not just made and stored. It was used and lived through real moments in history. Now let's talk about something that collectors always look for: errors and rare features. Even though the 1947 wheat penny is common, there can still be small details that make a coin more interesting. One thing to look for is doubling in the letters or numbers. This happens when a design is struck more than once slightly out of place, creating a shadow effect. Another feature is die cracks. These appear as thin raised lines on the coin and happen when the metal die used to make the coin begins to wear out. There can also be weak strikes, where some parts of the design are not fully formed. This can make certain areas look softer than others. Sometimes, coins may be slightly off-center, where the design is not perfectly aligned. Even a small shift can make a coin more unique. Now here is where things become interesting. Even though this coin is in circulated condition and looks simple, it can still have value beyond its face value. Collectors are always looking for coins that show history, natural aging, and possible rare features. If this 1947 wheat penny shows strong remaining detail, attractive natural color, or any kind of mint error, it can reach values between $170,000 and $230,000 when properly checked and confirmed by experts. That kind of value does not come from the coin being perfect. It comes from rarity, collector demand, and the story behind the coin. There are many 1947 pennies, but not all of them have the same features or appeal. This is why collectors take their time. They look closely at every detail, searching for something special. The 1947 wheat penny without a mint mark is a great example of how a simple coin can carry deep meaning. It represents a time of change and recovery, shows years of real use, and may even hide something rare. For collectors, coins like this are more than just money. They are small pieces of history that can still be held today. They remind us that even ordinary objects can have extraordinary stories. So the next time you see a coin like this, do not ignore it. Take a closer look. Study the details, check the condition, and think about where it has been. Because sometimes, even a simple and worn penny can turn out to be something much more valuable than it first appears. Next up, we take a closer look at one of the most talked about pennies in American coin collecting history, the 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny without a mint mark, found today in circulated condition with a deep black shade that shows years of use and aging. At first glance, this coin may not seem special at all. It looks dark, worn, and tired, with most of the original shine long gone. The surface may appear dull and uneven, and the details might look soft from years of handling. Many people would simply ignore a coin like this or think it has no real value. But collectors know that this particular year holds a secret that can completely change everything. The 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny was made at the Philadelphia Mint, and during that time, coins from Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark. So when you see a 1955 penny without any letter under the date, that is normal for this issue. But what makes this coin truly famous is not just where it was made, but how it was made. In 1955, something unusual happened during the minting process. A small number of pennies were struck using a misaligned die, which caused a very strong doubling effect on the front of the coin. This error is now known as the 1955 double die obverse, and it is one of the most famous coin errors ever discovered. On these rare coins, the words Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and even the date 1955 appear clearly doubled. This doubling is not small or hard to see. In fact, it is so strong that it can be noticed with the naked eye without any magnification. It almost looks like two images were printed slightly on top of each other. This happened because the die used to strike the coins received a second impression that was not perfectly aligned. Instead of being destroyed, the die was accidentally used in production, and thousands of coins were struck before the mistake was caught. Now here's where things get exciting. Many of these double die pennies were released into circulation before anyone realized what had happened. People use them in everyday transactions, buying groceries, paying for services, and passing them from hand to hand. Over time, some of these coins became worn, scratched, and dark in color, just like the circulated black shaded coin we are talking about here. But even in this condition, the doubling error does not disappear. It stays visible, hidden under the wear, but still there for those who know what to look for. The design of the coin itself is simple but powerful. On the front, you see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Facing right, the word Liberty is on the left side, while the date 1955 is on the right. Above Lincoln's head, you will see the phrase, I in God we trust. On a normal coin, these details appear sharp and single. But on a double die coin, they appear thick, bold, and clearly doubled, creating a dramatic look that immediately stands out. On the back, the coin features two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent, along with United States of America and E Pluribus Unum. This classic wheat design was used for many years and is loved by collectors all over the world. The black shade on your coin comes from natural aging. Copper coins change color over time as they react with air, moisture, and other elements. When a coin turns dark brown or even black, it usually means it's been in circulation for a long time. While some people think this reduces value, collectors often see natural toning as a sign that the coin has not been cleaned or altered. Cleaning a coin can actually damage it and lower its value, so natural wear and color are often preferred. Even though your coin is in circulated condition, it still deserves a careful inspection. The key question is whether it shows the famous double die error. If it does, then you could be holding something truly special. Even worn examples of the 1955 double die penny have sold for very high prices. A circulated example with clear doubling can reach around $162,000 to $231,000, depending on how strong the doubling is and how much detail remains. Higher quality examples can go far beyond that, but even in a worn state, the value can be life-changing. Collectors all over the world search for this coin because it represents one of the greatest minting mistakes in U.S. history. It is not just about money, it is about the story behind it. A simple error made during production created one of the most famous coins ever known. That is what makes coin collecting so exciting. You never know when a small, ordinary-looking coin might turn out to be something extraordinary. If you ever come across a 1955 wheat penny without a mint mark, do not rush to spend it or ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the date, the lettering, and the details. Look for signs of doubling, especially on Liberty and I in God We Trust. Even if the coin looks dark, worn, or damaged, it can still hold incredible value. Many of the known examples were found in similar conditions, hidden in jars, old collections, or loose change. This coin is a perfect reminder that appearance can be deceiving. What looks like a simple, blackened penny could actually be one of the most valuable coins in your collection. It shows that history, mistakes, and time can come together to create something truly unique. And somewhere out there, another 1955 double-die penny may still be waiting to be discovered, quietly sitting in someone's pocket, completely unnoticed. So the next time you see an old wheat penny, don't just pass it by. Take a moment, look a little closer, and remember that even the smallest coin can carry a story worth thousands of dollars. Next up, we take a deep dive into a classic piece of American coin history, the 1952 wheat penny with the S Mint mark, found today in circulated condition. At first glance, this coin may look simple, worn, and even a little dull. Its surface may show years of use, with scratches, faded details, and a soft brown color from age. But behind that worn appearance is a story filled with history, craftsmanship, and a kind of hidden potential that keeps collectors searching through old jars and pocket change every single day. The 1952 wheat penny was struck during an important time in American history. The country was moving forward after World War II, industries were growing, and everyday coins like this one were part of daily life. These pennies passed to the hands of workers, families, shop owners, and children buying candy. Each coin became a small witness to history, quietly traveling through decades without anyone thinking it might one day become collectible. This particular coin carries the S Mint mark, which means it was produced at the San Francisco Mint. That small letter under the date might not seem important at first, but for collectors, it plays a big role. Mint marks help identify where a coin was made, and sometimes coins from certain mints are produced in lower numbers or show different striking qualities. The San Francisco Mint is well known for producing coins with strong detail, but also for having lower mintage compared to Philadelphia. That makes the S Mint mark something collectors always pay attention to. When you look at the front of the coin, you will see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and has been used since 1909. Even in circulated condition, you can still make out Lincoln's profile, though the fine details like his hair and cheek may be worn smooth. The word Liberty appears on the left side, and the phrase, I in God We Trust, arches along the top. The date 1952 sits clearly on the right, along with the small S Mint mark below it. On the reverse side, the coin shows the classic wheat design. Two wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, you will see E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning out of many one. This simple but powerful design represents growth, agriculture, and the strength of the nation. Even though this coin is worn, most of these details are still visible, which is important for collectors when identifying and grading it. Now, let's talk about the condition of this specific coin. Being in circulated condition means it has been used in everyday transactions for many years. This results in visible wear, especially on the high points of the design. Lincoln's hair may appear flat, his jawline less defined, and the wheat stalks on the reverse may look smooth instead of sharp. There may also be scratches, nicks, and small dents across the surface. These marks come from contact with other coins and objects over time. The color of the coin is another important detail. This 1952 penny shows a brown tone, which is completely normal for older copper coins. When pennies are new, they have a bright red shine. But over time, exposure to air, moisture, and handling causes a copper to oxidize, turning into shades of brown or even dark chocolate color. Collectors actually expect this change, and natural toning can even add character to the coin as long as it has not been cleaned or altered. One thing to be careful about is corrosion. Some circulated coins may show green spots or rough areas, known as verdigris. This happens when copper reacts with certain environmental elements. While it may not look appealing, it tells a story of where the coin has been. However, heavy corrosion can reduce the value because it damages the surface permanently. Now here's where things get really interesting. While a regular 1952 wheat penny in circulated condition is generally common, The real excitement comes from rare varieties and mint errors. During the minting process, small mistakes sometimes happen. These mistakes can turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. For example, some 1952 pennies may show what collectors call a double die error. This happens when the coin's design is stamped more than once but slightly misaligned. The result is a noticeable doubling in the letters or numbers, especially in Liberty or the date. Even a small amount of doubling can make a coin much more valuable. Another type of error is a repunched mint mark. In older minting processes, the mint mark was added by hand, and sometimes it was stamped more than once in slightly different positions. This creates a shadow or doubled effect on the S mint mark. Collectors love these small variations because they are unique and harder to find. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly aligned during minting. This can cause part of the design to be missing or shifted. While most of these errors were caught at the mint, a few made it into circulation. These coins are highly collectible because of their unusual appearance. Even though this coin is worn, it should never be ignored. In fact, many rare coins have been discovered in circulated condition, where it does not remove errors or unique features. It only makes them a little harder to see. That is why collectors carefully examine every detail, often using magnifying glasses or digital scales. Speaking of scales, while weight is not usually a major factor for this specific coin, it can still help confirm authenticity. A standard wheat penny from this era should weigh about 3.11 grams. Any major difference could suggest damage or a rare minting issue. Now let's talk about value, the part everyone is curious about. In general, a normal 1952 wheat penny, in circulated condition, might only be worth a small amount above face value. But when you start adding rarity, strong details, or mint errors into the equation, everything changes. Some high-grade or rare error examples of this coin have reached impressive prices in the collector market, with standout pieces selling in the range of $155,000 to $213,000, depending on their uniqueness and preservation. That kind of value shows why collectors never ignore old coins, even if they look worn or ordinary. The true worth of a coin is not just in its appearance, but in its rarity, history, and the small details hidden within its design. Another important factor is how the coin is stored. If you happen to own a coin like this, it is best to keep it in a protective holder. Avoid touching the surface too much, as oils from your fingers can cause further damage. Never clean the coin, even if it looks dirty. Cleaning can remove natural toning and reduce its value significantly. Collectors also recommend comparing your coin with verified examples or having it checked by a professional if something looks unusual. Sometimes the smallest detail can make the biggest difference. What makes the 1952 wheat penny truly special is not just its design or age, but its journey. This coin has traveled through time, survived decades of use, and still carries a story today. It represents a piece of everyday history, something that once had simple value, but now holds deeper meaning for collectors. In the world of coin collecting, stories like this remind us that treasures do not always shine. Sometimes they are hidden in worn surfaces, dark colors, and overlooked details. A coin like this may sit unnoticed for years, only to be discovered and appreciated later. So the next time you come across an old penny, take a closer look. Check the date, the mint mark, the condition, and any unusual features. Because coins like the 1952 wheat penny with the S mint mark prove that even the smallest piece of metal can carry history, mystery, and a potential for something truly valuable.